Mercedes has just endured its worst season since returning to Formula One, and there is no way anyone can argue otherwise or see the 2023 championship differently for the Brackley-based team. While it is true that the team took second place in the Constructors' Championship in a dramatic finish against Ferrari at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, thereby improving on its third-place finish from 2022, a closer look makes it clear that the Toto Wolff-led team has had nothing to celebrate this year. And that is quite literally the case, as for the first time since 2011, Mercedes failed to win a race in a season. It is truly astonishing that a team as big and proven as Mercedes has still not managed to figure out how to build a good car under the ground effect rules that came into force 2 years ago. In 2022, Mercedes struggled like a few others with porpoising on its W13 and struggled to generate downforce with its zero-pod concept, which surprised at the start of the year. The team ended the season on a high note with a great weekend in Brazil, in which they managed a 1-2 finish with George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, thus avoiding going on holidays without a win. And while that victory was great news for Mercedes at the time, it harmed its 2023 season as it led the team's designers to believe that the zero-pod concept could perform, and so was retained for this year in the hope that it would be their way to challenge Red Bull. But that was not nearly the case. Very early on in Bahrain, the place of preseason testing and the first race of 2023, it became clear that not only did Mercedes not have the car to challenge the dominant Red Bull, but it also struggled against the likes of Aston Martin and Ferrari, scoring just one podium in the first 5 races. This led Mercedes to abandon its revolutionary zero-pod idea from the Monaco Grand Prix onwards, adopting the downwash solution for the side pods, the development path that its rivals, especially Red Bull, already had. However, things don't work like copy-paste in Formula One car design business, and the change did not result in Mercedes suddenly gaining a huge amount of performance. Rather, it continued with results that can only be considered mediocre for its very rich history, having to settle for just a few podium finishes here and there. True, it was best of the rest behind Red Bull, as Mercedes finished second in the Constructors' Championship, and Hamilton was third in the drivers behind Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, and even pushed the Mexican for the runner-up spot, although that was more due to Perez's struggles to perform this year at the wheel of the RB19. Mercedes scored the fewest points since 2013, a season that had 3 fewer races and, of course, no lap record bonus points or sprint races. Plus, Mercedes led just 19 laps during the year against Red Bull's 1,149. Okay, so Red Bull was overwhelming, but Mercedes finished behind Ferrari, which led 118 laps, and even McLaren, which enjoyed 31 laps at the top. Mercedes even had fewer podiums than Ferrari and McLaren, 9 to 8, and was in line with Aston Martin. But we know the Silverstone outfit only had one competitive driver all year in Fernando Alonso, so they might well have scored many more without Lance Stroll on the other car, although that's a debate for another time. Frustrations at Mercedes went all the way to the final round of the year in Abu Dhabi, where, after qualifying, Hamilton complained about the W14's inconsistency. The 7-time F1 world champion said, "It's more inconsistent than ever before. It's just up and down per corner from the moment you hit the brakes, the moment you turn, the moment you hit the apex. It's massively out of balance and very hard to predict what's going to happen. It's just a very unpredictable car, but it's been the same all year." Wolff said that on Saturday at Yas Marina. He was fed up of having to explain why things had not gone well over and over, and Russell went further. "It's been probably one of the worst seasons of my career in terms of results. It's just been a scrappy, messy season. I don't think it's been through a lack of speed. We've had really strong pace in many, many races, but just never achieved that result on a Sunday," the young Brit said. Mercedes' lack of speed throughout 2023 also exposed problems that were unseen when they dominated Formula One with one win after another, such as the team being slow on pit stops. In this particular area, Mercedes was 7th among the 10 teams on the grid, something that led Wolff to acknowledge at the end of October that they need to improve. "Our mindset in the last 20 years was that we don't need to be world champions in pit stops, but we need to avoid very slow pit stops," Wolff said. "It's come to a situation now where we realize it has become so competitive, and we just need to ramp up our game out there." After all that went wrong this year, all that remains for Mercedes to do is to have learned its lessons and improve enormously next year, when in February it unveiled its new car, the W15, a challenger that Wolff has already warned will be completely different to the one that was raced in Abu Dhabi. The boss said, "We're changing the concept. We're completely moving away from how we laid out the chassis, the weight distribution, the airflow. I mean, literally, there's almost every component that's being changed because only by doing that, I think we have a chance." In the meantime, Hamilton, who holds the F1 wins record with 103 victories, but has now gone 2 years without a win, admitted at the end of the 2023 campaign that everyone at Mercedes will be under pressure to deliver results next season. At the same time, the Briton expressed concern after Red Bull comfortably won the race in Abu Dhabi, despite being known to have stopped developing its 2023 car months ago to focus on the 2024 car. Red Bull won by 17 seconds and have not touched the car since August, so you can pretty much guess where they're going to be next year. "I was just slow throughout the race," he expressed. Amid so much doom and gloom, perhaps the surprising word of hope for Mercedes and the rest of the grid came from the Red Bull racing camp. Asked why he thinks anyone can catch Red Bull in 2023, team boss Horner answered back with an example of what happened a couple of years ago. "We saw that in 2020 with Mercedes. If you remember, that was the most dominant year ever, and yet we were able to beat them in 21. It's hard to know how real Horner might believe that statement to be true, but the reality is that Formula One needs to have a championship fight next year. And if that fight comes from Mercedes and with Lewis Hamilton at the helm, it will be a great scenario. The battle between Verstappen and Hamilton in 2021 was epic, arguably the most impressive in history. The rivalry between the two is clear, far greater than Verstappen's rivalry with Charles Leclerc or Lando Norris, to name but a few. A scenario in which the Dutchman seeks his 4th consecutive championship, and Hamilton finds himself in contention for the record-breaking 8th he feels he was robbed of 2 years ago, would be the best thing that could happen to Formula One. The answer to how that can happen lies in the minds of the designers at Brackley so that they can build a car that lives up to the brand they represent. The pressure will be on them. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to The Grid Report, where we bring you the latest F1 updates.